Hi, I'm Wells Hanley, and welcome to I Wrote This Song For You, a podcast where I share songs I wrote for people I know, or for people I don't know. The truth is, I'll write a song for anyone who evokes a feeling in me that I have no way of responding to other than to write a song for them. So let's meet today's guest and hear their song. I'll be talking today with my friend Sophie, who went through a kind of explosively life-changing event last year, which also had a really big impact on me and inspired me to want to write a song about it. Last year, after having been a widow for 8 years, Sophie met the love of her life at the age of 68, when I think we as a culture don't really expect new love to blossom. Dan, I believe, was in his early 70s, and they had a blissful 7 months together until Dan very suddenly became ill with pneumonia and passed away. I'm here with Sophie to talk to her about her story, and I'll also be sharing the song that I wrote for her pretty much right after I found out that Dan had passed. So I'm curious, Sophie, what happened inside of you that brought you from a place of being happily single to wanting to find a partner?
Well, it was actually about February of the year that I met Dan. A couple months prior, I had a dream. And in that dream, a lover showed up. And I woke up, I wrote the dream down really quick, and I had not had a dream that was that potently sexual, right? So I knew it was like there was sort of a shove, or a great big shove, from my soul self, that it was time for me to look for a partner. And so I just felt a sense of accountability, responsibility. I had a vague desire around it, but it was vague. So I treated it like it was an assignment. I treated it exactly like I was taking a college class, and I had to write the curriculum, and I had to decide what it was I was going to do. The only option for me, way out here in the country, was to, take a shot at online dating, which I had never done. It was the most abhorrent idea I think I could ever have mustered. So I took the steps that I didn't want to take. It didn't matter because this was a college class. And I had a guiding principle that I held myself to.
That dream must have landed in you with a kind of authority, with a kind of potency.
Oh.
You didn't just wake up from a casual dream about a lover and do that. I mean, it must have been a dream that you woke up and you were shaken by it.
The potency of the dream was so strong and so clear and so directive that inside my inner being, I knew that if I turned my back on it, that I would be turning my back on a gift, because I would have been afraid. And I really didn't expect much from it, honestly. I expected that at least I'm not going to have regrets in my life. I would have mastered a skill. Right. And the skill would have been online dating. And I was going to conduct myself with decorum and intelligence and kindness and reasonability and thoughtfulness. And I never in my life thought that I would get Dan.
You were my Indian summer, and though I knew you would be my last, when the breeze came in warm and the trees came to life, I didn't know it would go so fast.
You'd been married before. You'd been in love before. I assume you would certainly have said that about yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Was this something different? Is the specialness of it because it was the most recent? Or was it something altogether different?
I've thought about that a lot, because I can remember feeling, this, crazy driving passion when I met my first husband. I was 18 years old. just is only as stupid as you can be when you're 18. And we were married 2 weeks from the day we met. There's like a locomotive amount of passion. So I know that. I've experienced that. And I was married 25 years to my husband, Charlie. And I can well remember falling in love with him. Tremendous still amount of passion, but there was more containment around it. And it fit into a frame of life that was important to me. Raising a family, going to school, common goals and common ground, and appreciation for each other. 25 years, and then Charlie died. So different when I met Dan. So different. And I'm going to flip it all the way back and say, when I met Dan, it would have been like that innocence of love that would have been even at the age of 17. I mean, so unexpected, completely enveloped, and absolute certainty that you only get when you're really, really young. You gotta be really young, naive almost, when you can have this complete certainty that this is the love of my life. And yet it was tempered by all those years of experience. And I knew right away. So how did I know? I knew right off the bat. Dad was the one that was slow. I had to get him on the path. I think he knew, but I think he was a little more tentative than I am. There was a vibrational harmony. Instantaneously, I felt it. It's like a harmony that filled my whole body. It was like a song played in my body. And it wasn't just a song of passion, but it was a song of understanding, a song of adventure, a song of recognition of great sorrow, success, joy, willingness to change. All of those things were present and immediate. And when you hear that through your whole body, your mind, this sort of thing that goes on is like, how much money does he make? Is he just cute enough? Am I cute enough? How many other girlfriends does he have? Right? Am I number 10 on the list? Those weren't in the musical mix. So I knew.
And oh, look how alone we both were, believing that's how it always would be. For year upon year, until out of the clear, you found me.
You mentioned something about there being sorrow as part of the song when you met him. And I think most people might find that surprising, that you're recognizing this great love that's come into your life, and part of that experience is like an immense sorrow, I think is how you put it. Mm-hmm. What is that? Can you explain that?
Yep. When Dan and I first met, we met for a coffee date. And neither one of us wanted to just end our conversation, our time together. Said, well, there's a little walk right out here along the Shenandoah River. Why don't we just take it? So we started up the trail, and Dan looked out over the Shenandoah River and the Blue Ridge Mountains that were there on the other side of the trail. And I heard him whisper to himself, I love this river. I love these mountains. And I knew enough to keep my mouth shut, and I waited as he looked out over the river and the mountains, and I saw the tears rolling down the corner of his eye. didn't say anything. I waited. Just gave him his time. Maybe a minute later, he kind of stepped back on the trail with me. And I knew that the sorrow that he had felt in his heart that made that bond, I knew that it was deep. And I also knew that he had met it, that he had had a conversation with it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to say it right then with this new chick, that he had just met at Starbucks. It was on our next get together. He told me that he had lost his wife of 32 years, 2 years previously to cancer, and that within 6 months, his adult son died too. And he could talk about it. That at first, of course, he felt like, I know this feeling. I remember this feeling when my first husband died. It's like, oh my God, I think it would just be so easier if I would die too. That crosses your mind, and then you can't. Your job is to live. What I did when my husband of 25 years died, I started hiking the mountain trails. I hiked those mountain trails hour after hour, day after day. I hiked and hiked and hiked, not just on the night days, in the pouring rain, in the freezing cold, in the beating heat, with the gnats all over your head, biting you, up steep terrains, rocky terrains. And I found out that Dan did the same thing. So we had that in common. I think the sort of the deepest strata of being, when you manage and you cope with the greatest deluge of pain, how do you do it? Do you drink? Do you take drugs? Do you go hide in a closet? Do you just run out quickly and find somebody else to kind of satiate the ache and the pain? But Dan and I did the same thing. We went to the mountains.
Your shared love of hiking was much more than a shared love of hiking. It was a shared kind of spiritual practice of hiking, or something. I don't know that that's the right way to put it, but it's just,
that's the right way to put it.
It's much more, it's much deeper than like, I love the mountains. Oh, you love the mountains. So I can imagine that moment when you're on the trail and he's on the trail and you don't know each other well, but I think you're both feeling that resonance that you both had. Mm-hmm. The tear in his eye when he said, I love the river, I love the mountains, there's layers of experience, it seems like, with that.
Yeah. So they didn't need words.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't need to be told, because it was right there in that moment. I knew that if Dan just came out, he could really meet me and meet my soul if he came to where I lived in Overall. If he came to my home where I live, in this farmhouse out here in the country, with a creek that runs through the front yard. The creek runs into the Shenandoah River. And if you sit on my couch and you look out the window, or you sit on my front porch and you look out the window, you're looking at the Blue Ridge Mountains. I knew that he would have a feeling that he was coming home to the deepest part of his heart.
Yeah. It really is such an enchanted place. And I remember coming out there with my family to meet Dan. And this was after he'd begun living there with you. And there was just this glow about the place, I think by virtue of being the place where your love story with Dan was unfolding. And in a way, Overall was this kind of third character in your love story.
So it was the very end of September. Dan and I had gone kayaking. Dan's kayak went over and he dumped. The next day, Dan's coughing. So he went to the doctor, and doctor said, "Oh, you're in perfect health, Dan. Look at you. Your heart's perfect. Everything about you is perfect. Your blood pressure's perfect. You strained a muscle in your chest. That's all, and that's why you're coughing." And, no more than a week later than that, Dan's still coughing. And so we went in and he got a x-ray that showed there was something in his lungs. So the doctor said, "Oh, maybe he got pneumonia, got some medicine." And it was a couple of days later, he actually passed out. He couldn't breathe. Go to the ICU, and I'm with Dan in the ICU, and his lungs are turning to scar tissue. And every possible doctor could not identify what was happening in Dan's lungs. And in 3 weeks, Dan took his last breath.
I don't know if I've told you this before, but when I found out that Dan had passed, the song just kind of poured out of me as a result of just the feelings that I was experiencing. My feelings, and also I think sort of imagining what you must have been going through. I knew that I didn't want to write a song for you just about the grief and sadness, but that I wanted the song to say something about, when a love that great comes in, it has this transformative and changing effect that is ultimately beneficial, even if the story ends in a way that we really hoped that it would not have ended. So I think I had to do my own soul searching around these ideas of love and loss. And in a way, I had to come to understand, like, at an emotional level, what I already understood intellectually, which is that, as devastating as it is to lose someone, that you can, while feeling devastated, feel grateful, genuinely grateful for the way that they've touched your life. And that's not a platitude, but that's like a real part of your lived experience.
I love Dan as much right now as I ever loved him. And I loved him this much when I met him the first time. That's crazy. It never changes. It never changes. It doesn't change my heart at all. So I'm not sad. With the time that I had with Dan, it was such an incredible, magical gift. Just like a miracle. You don't really even expect a miracle to stay because it's greater than life. But then the miracle itself still lives forever. And yet still the loneliness and the sorrow and the emptiness are there too. So you just keep walking the path. You just stay on the mountain. You stay on the path. You don't stop walking the path. You never quit. And that's what keeps the love moving forward. It never goes away.
Sophie, I wrote this song for you.
You were my Indian summer, and though I knew you would be my last, when the breeze came in warm and the trees came to life, I didn't know it would go so fast. Our love was such a late comer, it put to shame every forecast there was. And though it has ended, you showed me my Indian summer. Love will show up when it does. Now outside the mountain is covered, and the frost on the field came so cold. But here on my hearth is a place we discovered that is golden and never grows old, where the flowers are still in their season, and the fragrance is fresh as the dawn. You came and you went, but old Indian summer, you showed me that life still goes on. And oh, look how alone we both were, believing that's how it always would be. For year upon year, until out of the clear you found me, and I found you. So when daylight seems to be dying, and the leaves one by one letting go, and December creeps in like the cold kiss of death, I am comforted now, for I know that no matter how harsh is the bitter wind, and no matter how hard is the ground, sometimes unexpectedly a warm summer rain can blow into overall, removing the stain of the time spent in longing, in grief and in pain. And all the flowers can bloom and the fields fill with grain. Cup that was empty spills over again, and the harvest can feel far away. And so even though Indian summer, you had to go, you stay.
The song hit my gut. You would think it would hit my heart, but it didn't. It hit my gut. And then as the words and the power in the music built pressure, came up through my heart, and then right out of my eyes. Tears of release, tears of joy, tears of being known, tears of being understood. I think underneath all of this, underneath my story, underneath Dan's story, underneath the music, underneath putting the two of them together, underneath all of that, there's just water gushing. You know what the water gushing says to me? It's saying, tell the world it's worth it to love again. I mean, it's telling the world that when it doesn't seem logical and society's not telling you it's there for you, and when you want to do it the old safe way, the trusting of the inner self, the trusting of the dream, the trusting of that pulling toward, that trusting of the inner knowledge of the heart, when that doesn't seem logical, it is the most divine logic. And that's what gave me Dan.
You've been listening to I Wrote This Song For You. This episode's song, Indian Summer, was written and performed by me, Wells Hanley, and was sung by Laura Ann Singh. To learn more or to submit a story to be considered for a future song, please visit iwrotethissongforyou.com. To help keep the songs coming, you can click the link Be a Patron, which will redirect you to my Patreon site. Patreon is a secure service where you can become a contributor to this podcast for as little as $5 a month, and in return, you'll receive exclusive behind-the-scenes content and other special rewards for your support. Thanks for listening to I Wrote This Song For You. I'll see you next time.